For a few years now, the Bose QC35 and later the QC35-2 here were Bose's best headphones. Now the noise-canceling 700 are here, which don't really seem like a replacement so much as an evolution. You can still buy these. As a matter of fact, that's a big part of why we're doing this video. The QC35-2 are significantly less expensive than the new 700, which go for $400. So the question is, what's the difference? Before I go on here, I actually want to reference the last video I shot, which was pitting the 700 against the Sony 1000X Mark III. Got a lot of comments in the comments section, which, you know, usually we do, but unlike with my TV reviews, there seemed to be some questions about things that I didn't address in that review. I responded in the comments. I encourage you to go read that, but in short, it comes down to this. I'm trying to describe the experience that you get with a headphone or a TV or whatever. Sometimes I don't dig into things that I don't think are that significant. For instance, with the Bose 700, you get 20 hours of battery life and the Sonys offer 30. 10 more hours is a lot. That's 50% more, as somebody rightfully pointed out. But you know what? That extra 10 hours of battery life has never done me any good at all. Should I have mentioned it? Probably so. But when I'm sitting here doing this in real time, trying to give you the best impression of what it's like to live with these products, I don't always think of everything. So keep the comments coming. I'll let you know in the comments section if I miss something. I'll fill you in on my observations there. Always happy to do it. And you know what? Keep it friendly, guys. All you have to do is keep it friendly. I'm happy to work with you guys on this stuff. You want to see something different in these videos? Tell me. Ask the TV folks. They know. I will change these videos to suit what it is you're looking for. Anyway, back to the subject at hand, the QC35-2 versus the 700. Where do we start? Well, let's start with looks to begin with. They obviously look very different. The hinge design is completely different. This is a more conventional sort of hinge design for Bose, but they've moved here so that the ear cups move along the headband. And you know what? I like it. And in fact, I have said that these are more comfortable, which some people think is just nuts. But I'm telling you, I wore them both again for a while, and maybe it's just my head, how narrow it is, or you know, how egg-shaped it is, or whatever. For me, it's all about where the weight gets placed. You're looking at 10.9 ounces versus 8.93 ounces, almost 2 ounces of difference, which your head might be able to feel, but it kind of comes down to where the force is being placed. And so I think what's happening for me with the Bose 700 is that it's distributing the weight more evenly. I often get, you know, sort of a pain at the top of my head after wearing these things for several hours, and I just haven't been getting that with these particular headphones. And I think that's clamping force. I think it's a balance between the clamping force of the headphones on my ears and also the squishiness. This is significantly more squishy than this is, even though I do like the cloth on the QC35-2 a lot. You know, I never had major problems with the QC35-2, but if I'm comparing the two and deciding which one's more comfortable, it's the 700 any day. We can agree to disagree on that if you like. What is not up for debate is the situation with the battery and the charging. So with the Bose QC35-2, you remember my chief complaint was that it used micro USB. When they came out with the 35-2, they had an opportunity there to go with USB-C and chose not to do so at that time. As such, you don't really get a fast charging option with these headphones. It takes between 2 to 2.5 hours to fully charge them in my experience. And that gets you something like 20 hours of wireless battery life, or 40 hours if you connect the cable. With the Bose 700, noise-canceling 700 is the full title, you do get USB-C, which is a great move on Bose's part. Now, the amount of time you get for like a 15-minute charge on these headphones varies, because I've charged it 4 different ways, or 4 different times, from dead and gotten 4 different results. That's also true of the Sony headphones. Really comes down to how the battery is behaving. But what I found is that 15 minutes is going to get you in the neighborhood of 2.5 hours. Some have claimed 3.5. I've never seen that happen. But again, you know, once you do that 15-minute quick charge, you're going to get a good amount of use out of the headphones. If you're on a plane and they die somehow for some reason because you didn't remember to charge them before you took off, you're going to be able to probably get through your flight okay by taking a couple of 15-minute breaks. So the quick charging is there. Does it provide as much battery power as the Sony? No. Is that a practical difference? I don't think so. Never has been for me anyway. Otherwise, yeah, you're looking at a total of 20 hours or 40 hours with the wire plugged in, not using the wireless technology. So not a big change in overall behavior between these two, other than the fact that you get to use USB-C and you get quick charging out of it. One more design consideration to think about is buttons and touch control. With the QC35-2, it's all buttons. There are 4 of them. Here is where you get your play, pause, volume up and down, and over here is how you call up Google Assistant or, you know, whoever. On the Noise Cancelling 700, there are 3 buttons, and then you use swipe controls on the right ear cuff for everything else. So this gets you power, this calls up your Google Assistant, this changes the effectiveness of the noise canceling, 0, 5, and 10, and then everything else, volume and play, pause, track advance or reverse, that's all done with swipes on the right ear cuff. Okay, let's talk a little bit about noise canceling and call quality, and I'm tying those two together because when Bose announced the Noise Cancelling 700, they didn't make a whole bunch of noise, sorry, about the noise canceling properties of this headphone. They mostly focused on call quality. So we tested both. What I can say about the noise canceling right now is that it is different, but neither one is significantly better than the other. If I had to choose, I'd take the 700. I'll say that right now. But with the QC35-2, I've always noticed a little bit of a pressure change when I turn them on. Not something that bothers me long term, I just notice it. With the Noise Cancelling 700, I don't notice that at all. So to test the noise canceling properties of these headphones, I've got one of those little noise machines that makes wind or rain sounds so you fall asleep faster or whatever. It gets pretty loud, so I stood right next to it with both headphones. What I noticed was that the Bose let a little bit of the high end through. So the really high frequency noise of the wind machine sound, whereas the 700 did not let that through, maybe let a little bit more of the body of that noisy sound through. But when it comes right down to it, both are really just excellent noise cancelers. And I think once you start putting music or movie sounds through these things, crank it up, you're not gonna hear anything around you other than what you want to hear. And that's really the main point. Both do an excellent job at noise canceling and not worth discussing considering the price difference. Now what about that call quality stuff I was talking about before? Well, by far, the Noise Cancelling 700 are the superior headphone for making phone calls. They just block out more of the noise from around you so your voice comes through more clearly. It's not going to get rid of every noise. You're still going to hear buses in the background if somebody's on the street next to a bus. But for wind, breeze, that kind of thing, and just general noise, I think it does a great job of picking up your voice and communicating that to the person you're on a call with. Now I need to take a second to talk about apps, which I wish I didn't have to, but these things are getting so advanced, you almost need to have an app. With the QC35-2, not so much. You can do almost anything you need to with these headphones without getting the app, including pairing. You just can't give them a funny little name. Otherwise, everything that's in the app you can pretty much address with the headphones. With the 700, not so much. You do want to get the Bose Music app, and the reason why is not for pairing. You can still do that and use rudimentary headphone features, but you get more granular control of the noise canceling if that's something you want, from 0 to 10 as opposed to just 0, 5, and 10. You also use the app to determine which voice assistant is going to be called up by default when you press the voice assistant button, be that Alexa or the Google Assistant, really. And there's a few other tricky things in there that you might want to get access to. Bottom line is go ahead and get the Bose Music app to use with these headphones. It comes in handy every once in a while. Now for the big consideration, sound quality. Is there a big improvement here? Bose certainly didn't talk much about that, but turns out there is a big difference in the sound quality. So how do I do this in non-audiophile terms? Well, I'll tell you, I've been listening to QC35-2 for a long time, so I've kind of gotten used to them. I know what to expect when I put them on. Have a very familiar sound to me. I can tell you that when I first listened to the Bose 700, I was like, whoa, hold on a second. They definitely changed the sound signature. The difference, if you were to compare them side by side, is that by comparison, the QC35-2 seemed a little bit more closed in. The sound is very good. It's articulate and there's plenty of bass there, and instruments come through clearly. Vocals tend to come through nice and clear as well. There's nothing harsh in the treble or the upper mids, so it's a very listenable headphone. It actually does sound effects really well. It's fun to listen to movies on, I've noticed. With the Bose 700, they completely reshaped the sound signature. The most notable thing about it is that they've pushed the upper mids and the lower bit of treble so that you get more of a transient response, you know, when a stick hits a cymbal or the edginess of brass. comes out more prominently. And at first, that makes dialogue or vocals sound much more forward in the mix. But when you listen to a band with like a lot of brass or a drummer who is just hammering on those cymbals, it's a bit much, at least in everyday listening, you know, around the office or whatever. If you're flying, I think that forward presentation is actually going to work out for you in the long run because it's going to be more clear and apparent, and you've got the noise canceling working overtime. So in a lot of ways, it makes sense if it sounds better on a plane, but I mean, if you're going to use the headphones in other places and you're kind of picky about the way your headphones sound, just know that these are a little bit forward in the upper mids. It's definitely noticeable. It comes off as detail at first, but later it comes off more as harshness. The QC35 too, they're just a little bit better balanced, a little more closed in. These are a little bit more spacious. So which one of these headphones should you buy? Well, I think the better buy overall is the QC35 too. They're right now $50 less expensive than the 700, and depending on what Bose's plans are, that price could drop if the 700 are supposed to replace them. So that right there, it makes it kind of a compelling thing. I like the overall sound quality a little bit better for everyday use than the 700. They're still a very comfortable headphone, and they work pretty well. I will make an exception though. If you're somebody who makes a lot of phone calls and mostly uses these headphones on an airplane, then the 700 are a better pick. Does the $50 really get you $50 more worth of performance? Overall, I'd say yes. Definitely on the airplane, definitely if you make a lot of calls with your headphones. So with the exception of that niche crowd who really would get something out of the 700, I'm gonna say the QC35 II are still a great headphone and the better choice for most people.